lessons learned from trauma and drama and getting the shit kicked out of you and fucking up and having crowds of angry people and having stuff taken away. Big life-changing moments are amazing opportunities to learn and to grow. Especially as we grow older, it becomes harder to change and rewire our brain. And it's said that trauma is one of the best ways to grow. So tremendous opportunity we have in front of us. Welcome in, much love, Trav here. Really appreciate you guys seeing everything. Everybody advocating for me is awesome, awesome, awesome sauce. So just want to say much love and thank you. And I know that there's some people who want me to be really sad right now and groveling and apologizing, and I will look at issues and things I could have done better, but I've got my head up, I've got plans, I'm going to make the most of it, I'm going to turn this into a positive, it will be good, don't you worry about that. So thanks everybody, and let's go ahead and dive in and say, there's 4 main lessons that I've learned, and I think the first lesson is that it's good to take responsibility for your situation, for everything that comes your. Also, by the way, I am going to appeal. I don't expect them to repeal it though. I expect, for those of you guys who don't know what's going on, I was suspended from the DCI, suspended from Pro Magic for 12 months, suspended from Magic tournaments for 12 months because of Magic for Bad. So I've been through stuff like this before. It'll be okay. Anyways, number 1, take responsibility for situations. It's just a good thing to do to take responsibility for your life. Your situations, you're not necessarily the victim of outside forces. You created this. You made it happen. You took actions that led you here. It gives you the mindset to, it's good to have some belief and faith in greater things, but if you believe that you create your situation, it gives you the power for 1, to look for things to change. It gives you also the power for 2, to look at why you came here, because we're pretty smart actually, and we tend to act on our subconscious and do things, and later we rationalize it with our conscious mind. So if you believe that you create your situation intentionally, you're able to kind of look at, take a deeper look at your actions and your responsibility and what happened. Also, it sets a good example for everyone else. It doesn't necessarily mean that you need to grovel and apologize and all this stuff, but just to say, free yourself from being the victim and say, look, I created this situation. Why did I create this situation? How did I create this situation? How would I do it different if I chose to do this again? So that's the number 1 lesson, is taking responsibility gives you a tremendous amount of power and ability to grow and shape your reality. Number 2, and this is what this leads to, which I think is a really useful mindset to think about, but you want to have a lot of clarity on your goals and what you're trying to do, and depending on where you're trying to get, the actions along the way are going to be totally different, right? If you're trying to be a pro Magic player compared to a professional doctor, you know you're going to take very, very, very different path. So specific examples from my story, if your goal is to have good standing in an in-group and across a broader community, and you want to not draw too much attention to yourself, or you want to not offend anyone, you should be very careful about what you say on social media. You should always think about how the worst things you can say can be taken and used against you, and the worst things you can say can be broadcast to cause harm, and they can be by people who want to do that. So you need to be, if your goal is to stay in, then you have to be careful. If your goal is to be an outcast and build your own tribe, then you might want to take the opposite actions, right? Because the same things that cause you to stay in the in-group slow down your ability to grow your own in-group, right? So, makes you think. For another example, if your goal is to be a pro Magic player, if my goal is to forever and continue on in top 8 Pro Tours and make it to the Hall of Fame, if all my best friends are on the Pro Tour and it's what I want to do for the rest of my life, then the actions that I've taken are a huge mistake, right? On the other hand, if my goal is to do other things with my life, have impetus to create my business, if my goal is to do farming and focus on the next stage of my life, if I feel like I'm really wasting a lot of my time personally preparing myself 40, 100 hours for Magic tournaments, and I'm wasting my one chance to be alive, then and I'm having a hard time quitting the grind, and I need help and I need a push, then these actions were not a mistake, right? So it depends what you're trying to get. And to be clear, again, there's things I could have done better, and I'm going to get into that. And if your goal is to lay low, then mistake. If your goal is, if you enjoy controversy around you and you thrive under that, and you know how to harness it and market it, not a mistake, right? So whether something is a mistake or not really depends on your goals. So you have to take a look at your goals, what they are specifically. And for me, this is why I'm okay. A lot of you guys know that those are true feelings that I've expressed. Those of you who read the last chapter in my book know that I have a lot of doubt about Pro Magic. Those of you who have seen my old video, why I stopped grinding Magic tournaments. And for those of you, I'm not telling you to quit, and I'm going to have another video on that today. Look at that. If you have serious goals, stick with them, though. Don't quit over this. Don't quit over me. I am going to be transitioning, but I'm not telling you that you should quit. It was worth it. I don't regret any time I spent on Magic. That was awesome. Doing the Pro Magic thing was great, but I also felt like it had overlived my usefulness in my life. I still like to coach players, and I get value out of that, and I give value out of that. That's more valuable to me than just playing by myself. But I also want to take that time and do more life coaching and help people with life transformation work through traumatic events. If you need help working through traumatic events, if you need help getting in better shape, so I want to spend more time researching physical and mental science, So mistake or no, really depends. If you believe that you're in control of your responsibility, that you're smart, that you get to certain places for a reason, and if you have clarity of your goals, you're going to have a totally different concept of what it's a mistake or not, right? Okay. However, I will say that you want to try to stay in your own lane so that when this sort of a thing happens, it's at least stuff that you can stand by for the rest of your life. So this is definitely the biggest regret that I have, and how I went about doing this with the Hitlergate Mein Kampf thing. I don't want to be an advocate for that. I'm interested in free thought and free speech, but I'm not that's not my cause. That's not my lane. Someone else can handle that. I don't want to. It sucks to be remembered for that. I could have done the same thing, but covered topics that I'm actually passionate about, that social topics and so on. So that's a big thing that I learned that I'm trying to be better about, is staying in my own lane of expertise, of community. And you look back on this most recent scandal, and I think I have been better about staying in my own lane. The comments I made were about the community and the state of the community and witch hunts in the community, and I can stand by that at the end of the day. So I think it's important for you to try to stay in your own lane. If you step out too far, it can scar you and cause a lot of problems. So that's something that I learned. Last lesson, and to me the most important useful lesson for social relationships. This will help your close friends, family, intimate relationships, and that is to try to judge people not just by their absolute worst moments of their very long lives, but also by the best things they've done and their general body of action. So, when I was younger and I hadn't made mistakes, I was very judgmental and preachy and high and mighty, because I didn't realize that as we go through life, we generally do some embarrassing, awkward, sometimes even bad and harmful shit. And depending on the level of transgression and depending on the level of what you offer, like you're gonna let society punish people around you, and fully support them once you realize that, like, hey, I don't need to judge them because they're not perfect. I don't expect them to be perfect. I'm not perfect. It's okay. Maybe they face some consequences, but I can fully support them. It's not my job to be the judge, you know. That's the court systems. That's the DCIs to be the judge. I don't have to be the judge of people, right? So that's really helped me and really freed me up and really helped me blast off my close relationships and intimate relationships, is just freedom from judgment that came along with this. So to me, those are the big lessons that I've learned from trauma in MTG. The first one being that perspective of you creating your own situation is really a useful and helpful thing, which will lead you to two. You look at your major life goals, your minor life goals, just where you're trying to get. Different actions are going to lead to them. What's a mistake for one path is not a mistake for another. 3, try to stay in your own lane. Don't do what I did, or do it differently than I did. I would have done that differently if I could go back, for sure, and pick a different battle. Number 4, freedom from judgment. You don't have to be the judge, especially if people aren't perfect. So I hope you find that useful. I'm sure I'll be back with more lessons later on. Those of y'all who want help and want to help, go check out my other YouTube, Travis Wu, youtube.com/TravisDWu. We'll throw a link up in there. Lots more content like this. And if you want help getting through a traumatic event yourself, couple slots, life coaching possibility. We'll throw up a link to that down below. And I'm not going to Oklahoma City this weekend. Sorry about that. I'm going to Denver, Boulder instead, visiting some friends because my flight's along the way. Might stay there for a week. I'm not sure. If people are in Boulder and Denver and want to meet up, message me. I may or may not want to meet up, but it'd be nice to have some options. So thanks, everybody. Appreciate you all, and we'll talk soon. Let me know what you think.